Hey guys, let's do a quick demo on how to add your character to a path. I've got this walk cycle. It's currently a progressive walk cycle with the character walking forwards. The first thing I want to do is I want to convert this walk cycle to a walk cycle that's on the spot. I'm going to take my global control here. The global control is actually countering the forward motion of the two leg IK controls and the root or cog control. So it appears to be walking on the spot. However, it's not. We need to make it actually walk on the spot. To do that, I am going to select this group that I've called Move. It includes the IK controls of the feet and the cog. So from frame 1 to frame 29, which is the match frame for my cycle timeline in here, so we only have that highlighted. And then I'm going to use our Animbot tools. I'm going to copy the X-form world space for the entire playback range of our cycle here. Now I'm going to return to our global control, and I am going to delete the animation we have on this control. I'm going to select my move control one more time. The reason I put these controls, the IK controls for the feet and the upper body or cog, in a group was so that they're selected in the exact same order, which is important when you're trying to read the animation that you have stored back onto your rig. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say paste X-form world space for all keys. So now our cycle is legitimately walking on the spot. She's not actually moving forward in space. Next, we're going to create a path. So I am going to switch this to an orthographic top view, and I'm going to display my grid. With my grid displayed, I'm actually going to turn the geometry for my character off while I draw a curve in space. So I'm going to switch this to modeling, and I'm going to say create curve tools, CB tool. I'm going to start at 0. I have snap to grid on. So we're going to go and try to evenly space these points. And that looks like enough. So now I'm going to hit this arrow up here to deselect, which will complete the curve. I'm going to rename the curve over here in the outliner by double clicking, and I'm going to call it path. Now that I've done that, I'm going to put my focus back in this window, and I'm going to hit spacebar so I go back to the layout I had before. I'm going to turn my geometry back on over here on the display layers. I'm also going to click on this R. So now my geometry is actually selectable. If I click this button right here, I'm now able to select geometry. And we want to do that because we're going to use the BH Ghost tool. So I'm going to select each foot geometry, and I'm going to add those meshes because we'll be using that in a few seconds. So now I'm going to go ahead and select this off. All right, so we have our character, and our character's not going anywhere. It's just walking on the spot, but we want to attach our character to the path. I'm going to select the global control first. Then I'm going to shift select the path. I'm going to go back to the animation module. I'll go to constrain, and I'll go motion paths, attach to motion paths. I'm going to select the options to make sure that the front axis is selected to Z because our character moves forward in Z. I'm going to close that first. Before we actually attach it to the path, let's go back to modeling for 1 second. We've created our curve. We've renamed it path curve. Now I'm going to select our curve. And while we're here in the modeling module, I'm going to go to curves, and I'm going to lock the length of our curve. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our animation module. So now we want to attach our character to the path. So I'm going to select the global control. I'm going to shift select the path, and I'm going to go to constrain, motion paths, attach to motion path. I'm going to select options and make sure that front axis is on Z because our character's forward motion is in Z. And I'm going to say apply. Now we're going to be left with this curve down here in the graph editor. I'm going to hit F to frame this curve. This is the curve that our character takes along the path. And it defaults to being ease in and ease out. We really want this to be linear. So I'm going to select the curve. I'm going to switch it to linear. Now when I scrub forward, our character is moving along the path. She's moving really fast. So we're going to need to adjust that. And that's why we selected the feet so that we could ghost them. So we know that halfway through our cycle is frame 15. You need to have this curve selected and then hit S at frame 15. So I'm going to go to frame 1 and I'm going to ghost the feet. Let's make the lines a little bit thicker by adjusting this slider. Then I'm going to go to, we'll go to perspective 3. Right, so we can see where our character has stepped here at frame 1, right? So at frame 15, she's moved way too far forward. So let's select this key and we need to, I'm going to hit W. Focus is still inside the graph editor. I'm going to hit Shift and middle mouse button. I'm going to drag it down, this key, inside the graph editor, which is also simultaneously dragging our character back in space. So we want to kind of line it up with that ghosted image that we created earlier. So it's also right there. I think we can get a little bit precise by framing in on it just slightly. Okay, so now that we've got that, I'm going to take this last key and I'm going to hit delete. And then I'm going to select the entire curve and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say curves, post infinity, cycle with offset. So now our character will continue moving forward on the path and she doesn't have a lot of slipping. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bust the ghosts. And now we want to add some shape to our curve. I'm going to select the curve and then I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to say control vertex. So now I can see the control vertex and I'm going to select a vertex and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click off snap to grid so I can reshape this curve. Now you'll see how the curve's getting a little bit shorter because we locked the length of it. We wanted to lock the length of it so that it would minimize how much our character slips across the path. So I'm just going to add a little bit of shape here. And then right click and go back to object mode. And now when we play back, our character is walking along the path.